Today we are at Eype Beach. So we decided to come to Eype because Seatown is out of bounds for the dog during the holiday season. But Eype Beach has a dog's welcome policy, as long as obviously you pick up any dog waste. That goes without saying. So it's a quite similar beach to Seatown, a little bit shorter, but it's again one of these gravelly bays with high sandstone cliffs around it. What you got? Stone? Good. So from experience, there aren't as many fossils here to be found as there would be on Charmouth or Seatown shores or Lyme Regis. But of course we'll keep our eyes open. We're here on the falling tide, as always when we go for a walk on a beach that has cliffs. We tend to come out on the falling tide. The tide is about midday today. So just going to walk along here, find a place to stop and have some lunch. So yeah, one of the benefits of coming here on the falling tide is we've got this end of the beach to ourselves. We're the first people to walk on here since the water has receded. The beach seems superbly clean. I haven't seen a single piece of plastic waste on here. Here's an interesting bit of, this is what they call Lyme Bay agate. Actually a kind of waxy chalcedony, sort of translucent. Sometimes you find really quite clear pieces, and sometimes with a faint violet tinge to them. So this is Lyme Bay. Just behind the headland there is Lyme Regis. You can see those cliffs there. That's where the limestone pavement is at Lyme Regis, which is visited in another video, so I'll link to that in the description and in this card. Some little birds just took off from the shore there. I didn't see what they were. Oh, there's fresh water running down there, coming out from the cliff face there. Must be a little spring or a water course up there. These cliffs, as all of the cliffs on the Dorset coast are in a state of continual collapse. There's been a big landslide here, you can see. Big chunk of cliff has just slumped down onto the beach, and lots of bits of rock smashed down. Looks like it's been a while though, because the sea has already worn them smooth. Although it doesn't take that long here. Obviously when there's stormy weather here, the sea churns up all of this gravel, and you can imagine that's quite abrasive. It's also the reason why all of these rocks are very rounded. All the pebbles on the beach are very, very smooth and rounded, because in the winter, when the waves are really crashing, it really does churn up. So, oh, is that a fossil there? That could be. No, I think that's just a piece of pyrite concretion. But that's a better piece of Lyme Bay agate, or at least you can see the translucency of it. Still haven't seen a fossil, but in places where you get those bits of pyrite, we might find pyritized ammonites. So there's another piece of pyrite there. It's not a fossil as such, although it might be an infill of a burrow or something like that. But where we're finding pieces of pyrite, we may find ammonite fossils, because they're quite often found together. And obviously in front of these rock falls is sometimes a good place to look, because this is where fresh material has come out of the cliff and got weathered out onto the beach. So this could be the place to look for fossils. Let me know if you see anything, and give us a timestamp if you see anything that I miss. Big chunk of iron ore there, and lots of little pieces of pyrite. This darker material here is pyrite. So iron pyrite is a material that forms concretions in these rocks. So the iron that was in the organisms that were living here all gets kind of dissolved out and then recrystallizes as iron sulfide, which is iron pyrite, and that's what this dark material is here. It's fool's gold. This is a really interesting bit of sandstone. Look at this. It's carved a natural, almost like a little basin. You could take that home and make it into a bird bath, couldn't you? If you didn't mind carrying a, 300 kilo piece of rock a mile along the beach. Needless to say, we won't be doing that. And this is clay washing out here. So this is Kimmeridge clay, the grey material, washing out of the cliff face. One day I will collect up some of this Kimmeridge clay, and we'll see if we can make a, see if we can actually use it as a ceramic clay. I keep on meaning to do that. So there are various bits of fossily stuff in these rocks. This is a piece of blue lias, I think. There's a probable bivalve shell there. There's a big chunk of iron ore here which we should look at. So this stuff here, this dark layer, is ironstone. And I will just have a little scout. I'm not going to go digging in this filth, and I'm not going to go too close to it because I don't want to get buried by a landslide. But it's worth having a scout around here. Oh, here's some fossily stuff. So I think there might be a bit of a, like a scallop shell. But there's all sorts of other bits of fossily stuff in there. Probably a belemnite down there. Jenny's way along the beach, looking back to wonder where I am. So I think we'll probably walk as far as those rocks there, sit down, have a little bit of lunch. Every now and again I see something that makes me go, oh boy. Sorry, dad joke. The last time I came across a stranded boy on the beach, I didn't really know what to do, but now I do. So we'll take a picture of this and we'll report it to the appropriate authorities. Looks like it's a harbour buoy because it says 6 knots, so it might be like the entrance of a harbour marker. But anyway, I'll take a picture of that. Are you helping? And we'll report that to the authorities. You know, it's obviously missing from somewhere. Come on, you. Come on, little dog. You got your stone? It's the school summer holidays. I'm surprised it's as quiet here as it is, but then this is not such a frequented beach as perhaps some of the others on the Dorset coast. But it is beautifully calm. The only set of footprints I can see is Jenny's. Oh no, there is one more person up there and in amongst the rocks. So today's video doesn't really have any objective. You know, if we find some fossils, we'll pick them up. Doesn't seem very likely. If we see anything very interesting, I'll get some footage. But the main objective here really is just to be out in the fresh air and sunshine and enjoy the superb tranquility of the spot. With that in mind, please enjoy a little bit of slow TV. So from here we can see the West Bay cliffs, the very striking, vertical, actually slightly overhanging usually, sandstone cliffs of West Bay. The iconic image of the cliffs, they appeared in the TV series Broadchurch. Not quite so many people know that they appeared in the opening titles of The Fall and Rise of Reginald Perrin. The beach where he's in the opening titles, where he's running along, stripping off and running into the sea is West Bay. Right, well, Jenny's sitting on a rock. I don't know if that means it's lunchtime. Oh, you want to play now? Okay. Now, I did see a little piece of green sea glass here, but Eva has disturbed the gravel with her excited yapping and jumping around, and I've lost it. Let's see if I can find it again. It was just about here. No, I think that's gone forever. Oh, I see it, it's here. She must have catapulted it all the way up there. So there we go, a little piece of green sea glass, probably a Heineken bottle. That'll come home with us and go in our little collection. What's up with you? So here's the first fossil we've actually found. It looks like a piece of a belemnite, and it's got a piece of pyrite stuck on it with an interesting little bit of colour there. Some shimmery goldish colour. So it's a belemnite section with a bit of pyrite concretion on it. I'm not taking that home. So that's really as far as we can go today, with the dog anyway. I wouldn't try and clamber across those rocks with Eva because they're just too rough and uneven and she would end up falling. So I think we'll just have a really gentle amble back this way. Oh, there's another fossil. A worn belemnite, quite a nice calcite example, so it's got some translucency to it. But that's a belemnite fossil. I'll put that in my pocket. I might leave that near the car park for some kid to discover. I don't think I'll bother taking it home. I've got hundreds of these. But yeah, we'll just have, I think, a really slow, gentle amble along to the other end of the beach. Now, since we've been here, you can see, well, this much of the beach has been exposed by the falling tide. So I suppose it's probably worth me having a look along this bit here, because this is where, if there's anything that's been churned up and brought up to the surface on this tide, I'll be the first one to see it. And honestly, I think this is by far the better way to do fossil hunting on the beach. Whilst you might not find as much, I've often said the fossils you'll find down here on the foreshore are the ones that are by definition durable, and so they'll last rather than crumbling away on your shelf when you get them home. But I just think the process of beach combing here, just having a very gentle stroll along here. We're not in a hurry to get anywhere at all, so we've got time to open our eyes, look around, see what we can find. I think is a much more enjoyable pastime than going up there and chiseling away in the awful grey clay to try to find fossils, and probably finding things that will not be durable. Another piece of Lyme Bay agate there. Quite a clouded bit though. Now I might just move up a little bit because the occasional wave is threatening to wet my feet. But yeah, as I say, I think this is the, by far, for me, a far more pleasant and civilized way to enjoy a beach. Just to wander along here with no particular time, schedule or anything like that. See what we can find, if anything, and then to get your hands filthy dirty digging away in the cliffs. Oh, Eva, for goodness sake. Just a bit of flint there, but quite an interesting little hole in the top. And that is another piece of pyrite there, iron pyrite. This is the problem actually with any kind of beachcombing with Eva, is every time I bend down to pick up what I think is an interesting stone. Oh, there's a nice belemnite. Yeah, that is a nice one actually. I might keep that one. But anytime I bend down to pick up what I think is an interesting stone, there's a risk that Eva will think I'm going to throw it for her. So there's a really nice translucent piece of Lyme Bay agate. That would probably tumble well if it was a bit bigger, and it would become quite a bit clearer. Not going to keep that. That's a slightly darker piece. Yeah, actually, the translucency of that one is not really coming across on camera, but it's mixed grey and clear. And so I think if we tumbled that one, we'd find there'd be pockets you could see into. But I'm not here to collect rocks today. Fossils maybe. So that's a nice calcite. I think that's calcite. So there is a belemnite made of Lyme Bay agate. So I think actually, no, that's probably quartz. Hard to say. Quartz or calcite belemnite, but quite a nice one. That's just a rock. Now, if we're finding belemnites here, we should find ammonites as well, because they're usually found in the same places. And we should find crinoid stems, because they're all sort of contemporaneous. Helicopter! Looks like maybe a Coast Guard. Right, I'm going to conserve battery in the camera. I'll turn it back on if we find anything of interest, or when we get back towards the other end of the beach where we haven't seen yet. And of course, the moment I turned it off, I found something. There we go. There's a nice, really nice clear piece of Lyme Bay agate. Well, I say clear, mostly clear. Highly translucent. But as I say, I'm not here to collect rocks today. In the short time it's taken us to walk to the end of the beach and back to this cliff fall, the fossil hunters are out, hammering away at the rocks. Ah, good luck to them. Seems like hard work to me. There's a big piece. Just sitting down here for lunch, and I've just spotted something down here. Eva, you're going to have to go out of the way. I'll be quiet. Here. Right. There we go. Tiny little crinoid stem. You are a bit extra, you know, dog. you want a bit of cheese? Lunch today, by the way, is cheese sandwiches, cabanossi and some nuts, and I've got an apple and a pear in my bag as well. And we got some snacks for the doggo, but I expect you'll probably eat a bit of sausage, won't you? So this here is not a fossil, not a recognisable one anyway, but it's an interesting piece anyway. It's a pyrite concretion. You can see that must have been almost a complete little button type shape thing. You can see where it's snapped there. It's a bit shiny inside. You can see the pyrite crystals, and there's quite a bit of pyrite down here. So again, we'll have a little scout around here in case we're lucky enough to find the pyrrhotite ammonite. I found another little crinoid stem and another bit of sea glass. There's not much to show for today, but we'll have a wrap up at the end of the video. So we're going to walk up to the southern end now. You can see West Bay Cliffs probably a little bit clearer up there, but the cliffs at this end of the beach look like they're a different material, more of the kind of greyish Kimmeridge clay. So we'll have a wander up here, because the cliffs being different might mean there are different things on the beach. Well, much bigger pebbles up at this end, almost cobbles. So there's been a thwarting action happening here, like Chesil Beach in miniature. And the sea, even when it's calm like this, makes a different sound across these pebbles. Interesting sparkly bit of probably calcite. Sparkly crystals. But we're not here for rocks. So interesting, these rocks here must have been here quite a while. Obviously part of an old cliff fall, but the cliff here is way back there. So there must have been a huge cliff fall with a great big piece that slid down, and probably a big chunk of it stayed here as one great big piece for some time before eventually breaking up into these pieces. Let's go and have a look at the big rocks. Obviously, and as I say, you know, I've been here a while because you can tell from the rounded corners and of course all the weed growing on it. Is that something weathering out of the rock there? Hard to say. What are your thoughts, Eva? Quite tough going on the bigger pebbles here. Actually, these are definitely now cobbles, and it's a bit harder on the feet. So unless this gets smaller again, the other side of this big patch of rocks, it looks like maybe it does. Yeah, I was going to say that could be as far as we go, but I think it gets better here. Yeah, okay, well we'll walk as far as those rocks, I think. Yeah, different cliffs, different, and lots of little fossily stuff in there. This is all bits of little bivalve shells and broken up organisms. Something slightly bigger there. So, you know, you might find something. And I don't know how much it'll come across on camera, but the shore is different here. I haven't seen any weathered out fossils though. I think this stuff might be a kind of slaty shale type of thing, and potentially any fossils in there are a bit too crumbly to persist. I think that must have been a boat from, you can get boat trips from Lyme, Regis and Charmouth, maybe from West Bay. Yeah, again, lots of shelly stuff in the rocks here. Looks like mostly oyster shells and similar. What have you got, Eva? So they say mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. I always have to keep an eye on Eva. We do bring water for her to drink. She looks a bit thirsty at the moment, so I'll give her a drink of water in a minute. There's always enough shade for Eva wherever we go. She's of a size that she can stand in my shade if she needs to. Well, there's a fossil. That's the inside of, I think, of a fossil sponge. It's not very spectacular, so I don't think we'll be keeping that one. Right, and I don't know if you can actually get up onto that promenade and go along to West Bay or not. I think it might be closed off, but I think that's the limit of our walk today. We'll head back now to the car park, get home, maybe stop for a cup of tea somewhere on the way home. I think some really interesting layers of calcite exposed in these rocks here. This is sandstone or limestone, or sandy limestone, something like that. Lots of sort of layers of calcite exposed, and along here on the way I saw a really interesting one. There we go. Now I think all of this patterning here is probably waves that were on, ripples that were on the surface of a shallow seabed, and then it was covered with layers and layers and layers of sediment, and now it's weathered back. So here's the haul from today's trip. Not much to show for it, but that's fine. I didn't go there with the intention of finding very much and bringing it back, but you know, it's always nice to bring a few things home. 3 pieces of sea glass, 2 little green pieces, actually not quite the same colour of green, slightly darker green on that one, so probably a Heineken bottle, probably something else, and a piece of clear glass. 1 little belemnite. I've got lots of these in my collection already, and I wouldn't normally have brought more of these home, but this is a particularly interesting one because, I don't know if you can see that, yes, the material is either calcite or quartz, and it's got a good deal of translucency to it, which is a bit unusual. But this is obviously from a slightly different location to the ones I most commonly pick up at Seatown. So might come out of a different formation, slightly different mineralogy, and it's been infilled with a more translucent quartz or calcite. And then 2 little crinoid stems, quite small ones. This one's a little bit worn, but you can see the sort of segments of the stem there. This one is in fairly good condition, and you can actually see the star-shaped cross-section on the end there. And actually, I need to zoom in and show you this on I'll get the cheap USB microscope out and show you some poor quality close-ups of this.
but you can actually see the anatomical details that have been preserved right in the end of the crinoid stem here. There's like a little star-shaped pattern there, and actually I can't see the full detail of it, so I'm looking forward to looking at that in a microscope. And that's what we found today. So those 3 pieces of sea glass will go in the collection on the windowsill, and these things will go into my fossil cabinet. But all in all, that was a very enjoyable trip to Eype Beach. It's a nice beach. It was very clean. I went there with the intention of picking up some litter while we were there. Couldn't find a single piece of plastic litter on the beach. That's slightly unusual, but welcome. And it's surprisingly quiet, but that may be because it's kind of hard to get to. It's not very far from the main road, but the route down to Eype village and beach is a very narrow single track lane with passing places, and the parking at the beach is relatively limited. So maybe that puts a lot of people off going there. But we had a lovely day there.
So thanks for joining me on this walk along Eype Beach today. I hope that's been interesting. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.